make them richer in the product. So you just want to make sure that everything you're prioritizing, you can go under the rubric, is this the most important thing this person could be doing? To make sure that a year from now we have a lot more users than we do today. Growth hacking is this new concept, or this new term that's been used for what kind of tactics people might use to do growth. And often they feel like hacks, and often they're used to kind of get things started. The Airbnb story is very famous. They started by going on Craigslist and both listing places for rent and finding people who were listing places for rent and saying, hey, would you come list on our site? And so they were finding that Craigslist was a place where there was already a lot of demand, but they were saying, hey, you might want a better listing or a better experience. Come and try to use our marketplace. And that's kind of a hack, because you know that over time it's not sustainable to keep going after Craigslist. And whether Craigslist even blocks you over time, that's not a sustainable way to get your marketplace going. But that's kind of a hack. Other growth hacking people may talk about virality efforts and try to figure out, like, how do I optimize exactly the message of the viral invite in order to do it? And they call that sort of A/B testing and hacking for growth hacking. But I think fundamentally growth isn't about these hacks beyond kind of getting things started. Growth is really about systematically understanding what are the components that cause my product to sustainably grow day after day, week after week, and build these like robust programs that do that. So I joined Twitter in the fall of 2009, and it was a really interesting time for the company. Over the past year, the company had really been sort of hyped up almost to the nth degree. We had millions and millions of people around the country and the world signing up for Twitter to find out what it was all about. And when they'd sign up for Twitter, or they'd come to the Twitter website, they might see a big search box, which led you down the Twitter search experience, which isn't really what Twitter's about, and it's actually pretty hard to parse. Or you'd go and you'd go through our sign-up flow, and it'd be like, go and import your friends to find your friends on Twitter, and then here's 20 suggested users you might want to follow. And so you'd end up with 20 random people, or nothing, and you'd be like, now what? Everyone said this thing's amazing, I don't get it, and they'd leave. We really invested in like 3 or 4 key things to try to change this. The first was just repositioning what Twitter was all about. It started with, what are you doing? And we realized what was really going on with Twitter wasn't people just sharing what they were doing, but talking about what's happening in the world everywhere. We changed the question to what's happening. And then as we talked about Twitter everywhere, we talked about Twitter as being the place you go for what's happening in the world. If you sign up and you follow the right things, you'll have this just amazing lens into what's happening all the time in real time. The second thing is we changed the entire sign-up experience. Instead of being a import your friends and here's 20 suggested people, we made you do a little bit more work. We made you go step by step and actually follow some people. And we organized it in a way that made it make a lot more sense to what Twitter was about. The first thing we showed you was categories like news and sports and entertainment and music. So you'd go, oh my gosh, I didn't think about going to Twitter for news, sports, entertainment, fashion, music, design. Now I get that this Twitter thing is about find people I want to subscribe to them, and they show up here on my homepage. And then whenever I come back to my homepage, it's recent, it's fresh, it's relevant. And that just complete rethinking of the flow meant when people signed up for Twitter, they got this kind of experience instead of something they still didn't understand and had to figure out on their own. And so we really tried to step back and do a bunch of research with people. We learned one other really interesting thing in kind of these interviews and research, which were a lot of people who were super excited about Twitter. When they told other people about Twitter, they would say, Twitter's this great place to sign up, start tweeting, go get a bunch of followers, you'll be able to have this voice and broadcast your message, which most people who weren't them would hear that and be like, oh my God, I don't want to sign up for Twitter. I don't have a thing I want to broadcast. And so it would actually be, you'd sign up, you'd think it's all about tweeting, and then you'd leave and you'd actually be scared of the product because you don't really want to have to deal with having this voice. The Learn Flow concept is make every step in the new user flow teach you something about using the product, but actually get you to engage too. One of the biggest mistakes I think a lot of companies make when they're trying to get people into their product is they try to make it so fast and easy to get right into the product that they don't actually teach you how the product works. And everybody thinks, man, I just want to make a product that's so useful. Google made one big box, and it was so useful that they didn't even need to educate you for everything. So we think that every product should work that way. I think that's not how most products work. They are complex, but when you get them and you're using them right, they're incredible. And so at Twitter, over time, as we kept improving the user experience, we came up with this concept that the team called the Learn Flow. And this was,
when you're signing up for Twitter, how do I not just get you to sign up, but actually have you learn the product as you're going through? And I think this was a really foundational thing. And when we joined Twitter over time, we've actually added steps to our new user flow, and it's only increased the number of downstream people who actually get active on the service out of a set of those who sign up. So if you sign up for Twitter today, this is the experience you'll get. Welcome to Twitter, and you'll have a screen that just tells you a little about Twitter and tells you to press OK. Now that sounds like a tour, but it's actually just kind of a pause. It's a breathe. Okay, you're about to sign up for Twitter. This is what a tweet is. Go on. The very first step says, go and follow a bunch of people. And here's a bunch of people you might want to follow. And you see as you follow, you see people actually show up in your timeline on the right. And this is this amazing learning experience. Oh, I follow, I get tweets. You see the correlation right there. The next step now says, now go browse some categories like news and sports and entertainment and find other people you might be interested in. And now you're learning by doing that there's news, sports, entertainment, fashion, design, music. Everybody's here on Twitter. And you're learning that this concept that you can go find anything on Twitter. And then the next step says, now go import your friends. And, it almost, nudges you pretty hard to do that. And by going to look, whether it's through Facebook or your Gmail or whatever, to go find some friends, now you understand finding friends is an important part of Twitter. And the last step is actually set up your profile, create your identity. Because again, you learn that you should have a good identity on the product. So by going through these 4 or 5 steps, you're actually learning the product as you go. If I were to just restate those steps simply, tweets, following, news, sports, entertainment, friends, profile, that's a really good description of Twitter. And even if you just take away those one word from each of those pages, you've got a really good, you've learned the product. Then when you actually go into the product experience for the first time, you're not like, what is this thing? But you now have a framework to think about it in. And so I recommend that kind of every onboarding experience works this way.